meeting to order. You call the roll, please.
Mr. Neese.
Here.
Mr. Jasny.
Here.
Ms. Connor.
Here.
I'd like to welcome you all to the meeting. We have a public hearing. Do we have any public comments before we get into the hearing?
The public comments are the hearing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Do we have a motion to go to public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
You second? Oh, I didn't hear.
Get to call the roll for that. We have to vote on that?
We don't have to vote on that, do we?
Okay.
We actually don't
You
even
can do a
really need.
voice vote, so you can just,
All right.
all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
All in favor of opening the public hearing?
Yes.
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 So now we're in the public hearing?
Now you would invite the public to comment. If there is no public comment, then we'd close the public hearing and we'd move on to the next agenda item.
Can we have some public comment, please? Nothing? Do we need a motion to close?
I would say yes.
Can we have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion, we adjourn the public hearing.
I second.
All in favor?
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, have you had a chance to look over the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Any corrections?
This is the only change.
None that I saw. I make a motion that we approve the minutes from Wednesday, December 13th, 2023.
Is there a
I
second?
second.
Comment.
Mr. Neese?
Yes.
Mr. Jasny?
Yes.
Ms. Connor?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Do we have any public participation?
Yeah.
Old business? Any old business?
No, sir.
The firefighter exam has closed. Chief Basso is on vacation, so he asked me to give the comments on it. So we're in the process of having the rest of the applicants who haven't applied yet apply, and then we'll be compiling the extra credit and coming up with the scores. We had 70 people sign up for the test. 2 did not complete it. Only 2 failed. 2 of the people out of the 70 are the provisional appointments that we have made. They both passed, so they will become permanent employees. That's LaRon Maynor and Morgan Powers. The National Testing Network does have statistics available for the testing. Our test takers were 89% male and 9.4% female and 1.2% undisclosed. The majority of the test takers were from Ohio, but there was Pennsylvania and West Virginia were also noted. Ethnicity was 85.5% white, 4.4% undisclosed, 1.26% Hispanic or Latino, 7.55% Black or African American, 0.63% Asian, and 0.63% American Indian or Alaskan Native. They also provide statistics on referrals, how people learned about the tests. 30% were from the department, 31% were word of mouth, 5.6% were media, 21% learned about it online, 5.6% learned about it from their school, and 5.6% marked other.
The school being a fire academy of some kind?
Most likely,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right,
So-
thank you.
Good job to the department and word of mouth for getting the word out.
Thank you. Any more old business? New business?
So you, oh,
Okay, I was just going to say, on behalf of Chief Basso, he's still looking at testing companies that he wants to use for the lieutenant exam. He is leaning toward National Testing Network, but I provided him with information on another company that he was going to look at.
Thanks.
So with the new business today, we are continuing our discussion of some changes to the civil service rules and regulations. And before we dive into the updates that were made via motion from the commission with respect to Article 21 amendments of the rules, I wanted to dive into a little background that I believe I might have glossed over a little bit at the first meeting with respect to what is bringing us here today, or at least the reason that started the proposed changes to the rules. So if you rewind back to last year through Ordinance 77, 2023, you may remember we had convened a Charter Review Commission with the city of Twinsburg, and certain recommendations were made by that Charter Review Commission, and then pursuant to our charter and Ohio law, those recommendations were submitted via separate ballot issues to the electorate of the city to be reviewed for adoption. And if they were adopted, then they would become a part of the city's official charter. So what is a charter? A charter is a constitution for the city, as many legal experts like to refer to it as. But for our practical purposes, the charter is a document that we can't differ from within the city's rules and regulations. So we cannot run into conflict. We can pass laws and regulations that support or further or supplement some of the rules that are laid out in the charter, but we cannot conflict with them. So one of the things that I don't think I did was briefly go over what charter changes were made and adopted by the voters in Twinsburg last year, and how those charter amendments impact our civil service rules and regulations. So I promise, I like to say this at the outset because I think I get some flack at some of our council meetings for being a touch too long-winded about things. So I will try to be expedient as I run through this. So without further ado, Section 705 of the charter is the Civil Service Commission section within our city charter. And I will note that it's basically two buckets of changes that were made within the charter. So if you put together that mental framework as you listen to this. So the first bucket relates to the composition of the Civil Service Commission. And you'll see there that a line was added and approved by the electorate that said that terms for members of the Civil Service Commission beginning April 1 of this year will be 3 years, as opposed to the 6-year term that was previously in our charter. So that's bucket one. The second bucket basically relates simply to how the classified and unclassified service of the city is made up, or the composition of that. So again, in Section 705, there were department heads that were placed into the unclassified service, such as the city planner, the director of planning and economic development, and the director of wastewater treatment. Being the attorney that advised the Charter Review Commission, I remember we had a lot of discussion about what do those simple or innocuous-looking changes actually mean. Well, the reality was that over the years and the evolution of the city, we had developed a reality, as we called it, or just an operational reality of how the departments were run and what department heads were there at the helm. And we wanted to update that list of unclassified servants so they would be consistent with what's going on within the city. The second part of this second bucket, if you will, was changes made to the competitive group of the civil service of the city of Twinsburg. And that relates to the entry-level versus non-entry-level safety services employees. So the Charter Review Commission recommended, and the voters of Twinsburg adopted, a distinction within the classified services for the competitive versus the non-competitive group. And that language about entry-level police dispatchers, firefighter, paramedic positions, and also dispatchers has been copied and presented, I believe, Tammy, and correct me if I'm wrong, nearly word for word from the charter into the civil service rules and regulations.
That's correct.
So what does all that mean? I'm here to say we have kind of a curious case before us to a certain extent. I've been asked this question a bunch of times over the years, and it kind of goes like this. Well, we're here to vote on changes to the rules and regulations, but it kind of sounds like you're telling me that certain changes to the rules and regulations, specifically the charter changes that have already been adopted, we cannot conflict with in our own rules and regulations. And that would mean that we would have to vote to support that change. Well, I mean, you can vote however you want, but the reality is that if we don't adopt the changes that are already passed through by the electorate and the charter, it will likely be my advice that we have to follow the charter because, as I said, we cannot conflict with the charter. So our rules and regulations cannot come into conflict with the rules and regulations within the charter. So all that being said, and I'll be happy to answer some questions here in just a brief second, what we have, and I won't belabor the first draft that we already talked about, you may remember that many of the changes are about the changes that I just talked about that were passed through with the charter updates this past year. There was also a group of changes that I have to, and I did this last time, I have to stop and appreciate Tammy here on this one. Through the review process, she was able to identify some clerical issues and clean up language that makes the rules and regulations of the civil service a little bit clearer. And then finally, we had a change that we discussed and had a robust conversation about with respect to Article 21 and the notice. So before we dive in, I want to draw attention to the document that's in front of you. So it has all of the same changes that were presented at the first meeting, and then, as I noted at the outset, the commission passed a motion to clean up Article 21. So if you flip to page 32. We have supplied language that says, "No final action to amend, repeal, or supplement the rules shall be taken until a public hearing has been held, of which the commission shall give 14 calendar days public notice on the city website." So we cleaned that up pursuant to your instructions at our past meeting. And as I said, everything else stays the same from what you saw before. At that, I'd be happy to answer questions. I always believe that the question and answer part of this process is the most beneficial part. And I'll stop.
Question I would have, and I know it went to the voters, is from the 6 years to 3 years, why 3 and not 4 like council?
That's a good question. I don't know if I have an answer for that because it's the commission's recommendation. That was the number that was supplied by the commission, and they said they'd like to do 3. Do you remember a specific? I can't.
They were just trying to get all of the boards and commissions equal, and the other boards and commissions serve, if I'm right, 3 years. Any of our boards and commissions are 3 years.
Some.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
I mean, I think the key was, now that you're reminding me,
Board was the longest.
yeah, there are no 6-year
There's no
terms.
6-year terms, but,
There's 3 and 4, generally speaking. So,
yeah, how they landed on 3, I don't know, but I know they were just trying to make everything consistent.
yeah, and as a follow-up to that, it is a collaborative process with staff and the charter review commissions, but at the end of the day, it's the charter review commission's call, and what they recommend is what they recommend. We try not to, or we try hard not to influence one way or the other, and we try to provide just factually based information like, well, what do the other boards and commissions look like, and so forth.
Well, that answered, because I wasn't aware there were some other boards that did 3 years. I thought everything was basically 4. We were just the unique ones with that 6. So.
Yeah, there are no 6. Off the top of my head, I can't remember all of
Okay.
the different, we have a lot of boards and commissions, as I think
All right.
many
Thank
of
you.
us know.
Any other discussion? Thank you, sir, for that.
Thank you, Mr. Neese. If I may, Mr. Neese, ask Tammy if you have anything to add. I don't know.
No, you did a good job summarizing it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm not sure, do we need to vote on that,
You need to vote on adopting the changes.
the changes
That's
that you
correct.
just explained?
That's correct. So, the action right now that would before you would be to vote on whether or not to adopt the changes, as presented to you through, version 2. So you'll see on the cover sheet here, version 2 includes the, changes to Article 21 that you had asked for, back in December.
Do we have a motion for that?
I make a motion to adopt the changes of the civil service rules, version 2.
I'll second that motion.
Mr. Neese,
Yes.
Mr. Jasny,
Yes.
Ms. Connor.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you for your hard work on that.
Thank you,
Thank you for a clear explanation today.
No,
both of you.
welcome, Mr.
Both of you, I appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else on rules and regulations or any other new business? Any miscellaneous?
Oh, sir.
Next meeting date?
I would like to request if you could meet next month so that we can certify the firefighter eligibility list. I'd appreciate that.
What day would that be?
Let me see here. February 10th. No, I'm sorry, February 14th.
It's a Saturday, February 10th.
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day.
Is that a good date for you?
Yeah.
Danielle,
It's a good-
Yes.
that works?
Yes.
It's a good civil service day.
Valentine's Day. Candy?
Heart-shaped donuts. You're,
You got it. I'll bring that.
I'll write that down.
I can always.
Have the agenda printed on a heart-shaped piece of paper.
I can print it on pink.
Thank you.
Is there anything else anybody wants to say?
Tom, you don't have nothing? Okay. I make a motion, we adjourn.
I second.
Mr. Neese?
Yes.
Mr. Jasny?
Yes.
Ms. Connor?
Yes.
Meeting stands adjourned.
Mayor, thanks for being here. Chief, thank you for being here.